The sheep. No, I'm chaos and he's mayhem. We're a double act.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
Good evening, everybody. It's Wednesday. You know what that means. It's time for Hun, your Geek Showing, with my usual host, Kelly Valentine.
Hello, everybody.
And JB's here as usual. Hello, me. So, let's begin. In that decade, it celebrated the explosion.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yes, it's 80s action time. Shooty, shooty, bang, bang.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
And the use of the word motherfucker was probably overused. I think there's an argument for it.
Especially when you throw in the phrase yippee-ki-yay.
Exactly.
Which, oddly enough, is our first talking point in 80s Action Night. We're going to talk about one of possibly the best Christmas films ever made, Die Hard.
Not a Christmas film.
It's a Christmas film.
No, it's not.
It is.
It's not.
I'm sorry. Right, I'm gonna point out some evidence. Right.
Mm.
The whole premise of the film is he's going to a Christmas party at his wife's employment.
Mm-hmm.
It's on Christmas Eve,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the most immortal lines uttered in the film in a quite a decent German accent by a sadly missed Alan Rickman. Ho, ho, ho. Now I have a machine gun. If you have ho, ho, ho in your film and it's set on Christmas Eve at a Christmas party, it's a Christmas film.
No.
It is.
No.
Okay. The director, I think it is the director anyway, says that it's a Christmas film, or at least one of the producers said it's a Christmas film.
Fuck him. It was released in June. It's therefore a summer blockbuster.
Yes, but it's set at Christmas, and over time it's been adopted.
Set at Christmas doesn't mean it's a Christmas film.
No, it kind of does. It kind of does.
Kelly, am I going to have to set Sandy on you? Am I?
No, but I stand.
Nice.
I stand my point.
There we go.
Christmas film.
No.
But no, right. Okay, putting that argument aside, Die Hard, absolutely amazing action film.
Of course it is. It's textbook.
It is. I mean, I didn't actually know until I watched some videos on YouTube, just kind of looking into the stuff you might not know about Die Hard, that it was actually based on a book.
Yes, I did know that.
I didn't know that.
Farewell to arms.
But yeah, I really didn't realize. And apparently it's like very, very, very loose connection. But at the same time, you've got Bruce Willis as now the absolute pop culture icon that is John McClane. And you've got to remember that at the time when Bruce Willis starred in Die Hard, he was known more for his slightly comedic chops.
Yeah, moonlighting was still big.
Yeah, exactly. It's very much like, again, we'll go off on a tangent on this one. It's a bit like Michael Keaton when he was cast as Batman.
Yeah.
There was uproar about.
Oh God, yeah, they shit on that.
Yeah, it was like, no, he's a comedy actor. He's not going to get because at the time the comic books were very, very serious with Batman.
Yeah.
So to cast a comedic character in a Tim Burton film, who pretty much at the time, apart from Beetlejuice, was an unproven director, fans went batshit. And I can understand that, people, when they saw that Bruce Willis was the main lead in an action film, they were like, the guy from Moonlighting? Really? Yeah. Like him? He's the guy. Like, because at the time as well, I mean, it's not the first action film that came out in the 80s, but it's one of the more remembered ones. But you've got to remember that at the time, when people said action movie stars, the first people you thought of were the likes of Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger. These big, buff, body proud, huge macho guys. But I loved Bruce Willis because he was just a cop. Now, I'm sorry, but how many police officers do you see that look like Arnold Schwarzenegger? I'm sorry.
Yeah, 0.
Yeah, maybe one in your lifetime, if you're lucky. I got the thing for men in uniform. I'm sorry.
Well, fair enough.
But you know what I mean? It's like, unless it's a male stripper, you're not going to see a cop with a body like Arnie. You're not.
No.
So I think that Bruce Willis as John McClane, just a New York cop visiting his wife in California, it was the fish out of water cop story. And he played the part brilliantly because he was believable as that everyday detective, that everyday cop, the one who drove his car to work, who ate donuts, who drank coffee. He wasn't an action hero. He wasn't a shoot windows and dive through them every day kind of guy. He was just a cop.
Yeah.
And he's put into this impossible situation. And you see by the end of the film, compared to a lot of other action films at the time, where even by the end of the film, the hero's got maybe a few cuts and scrapes here and there, but
yeah, he's
on
just
the whole,
fucked.
Yeah, on the whole, they're still quite. Whereas you look at him by the end of that, he's limping, he's barely holding himself up, covered in blood. He's a fucking mess, and I think again it goes down to the directing for this and everything. It's just when you make it that believable that the main hero is not invincible. He will get hurt. He will bleed. If he gets shot, he's not going to just bounce back from it and be fine. You know, it's the perfect action Christmas film. Yeah. I threw it in there again.
Oh, cool, blimey.
So, well, then, your thoughts on Die Hard, Guy? What do you reckon?
It's one of the best, isn't it? I mean, you got to sort of go, what do we remember of the 80s actions? The first one is Die Hard. This first one you remember.
Yeah. I like the second one as well. I think the first two are the best ones out of the series. With a Vengeance, I think if you take it as a trilogy, it's a nice little trilogy. Anything
I actually like the third one.
I do. I liked Jeremy Irons in that. Jeremy Irons in Die Hard with a Vengeance. Him and Sam Jackson, I think, if they weren't in it, it wouldn't have been the film that it was.
Oh, no. But if you put them two in a film, they're going to chew the scenery up.
Oh, yes. And then you throw Bruce Willis in for an extra.
Exactly.
It's just like, well, hell, you've got three big names who love to chew the scenery and just go all out. And yeah, I mean, Bruce Willis is really weird now, like you said, mentioning Moonlighting. My brain quickly went sideways. I could just look down at the picture, and it's like, it's hard to believe that the guy from Moonlighting is now seen as this very tough, gruff action guy. But then when you watch him in Friends, when he was in that, he's still got the comedy chops there.
Yes, yeah.
He's still got the chops. I think, not to throw any shade at Bruce, but I think the hard man thing when he's in his interviews and things, I think it's all an act.
Yeah.
I think it's all just him playing up to the John McClane from Die Hard, the stoic hero. Yeah.
Plus the fact you get these film junkets and they're just doing interview after interview after interview after
interview. Get sick of it after a while.
Somewhere.
Yeah, you just can't be bothered with that after a while.
Yeah. After a while, you're just going to go, fuck off.
Right. One of my favourite scenes in Die Hard, before we wrap up on Die Hard, one of my favourite scenes, and if you know the backstory of it, if you've watched the Movies That Made Us on Netflix, if you've watched that.
I've not got around to watching that yet. I watched The Toys That Made Us.
Movies That Made Us is actually pretty good, especially when they cover things like Die Hard, Aliens, things like that. They're really, really good. The Christmas ones are good with Home Alone. I think we may have to do a 80s Christmas movies for Christmas, Guy. I think
they will not include Die Hard in it because it's a summer blockbuster. Yeah. So you can play.
I'm foreshadowing for December. We've got 6 months to go, but with the way we record these things, we'll probably be recording the Christmas episode around Halloween.
Yeah, probably.
No, sorry. One of my favorite scenes is where Alan Rickman falls out the window.
Yes.
Because they didn't tell him they were going to do that. Well, they did and they didn't. They said they were going to count to 3 and then drop him. But they didn't. They just went, right, okay, action, and dropped him. So that
reaction.
That look of absolute fucking horror on his face as he's doing that first drop, that's real.
Yeah, well, it's better to react than to act.
Okay, he was like all harnessed up, and it was all safety and everything. It was like green screened and all that kind of shit. But still, just dropping that small amount of distance when you don't know you're going to drop that distance would give that.
Yeah, of course, you still got to shoot yourself.
Yeah, you'd get that perfect, believable reaction, and that's one of my favorite scenes, just because, like we talked about last episode about the in the 80s horror, sorry, not the last episode, in the 80s horror episode about the animatronic in Alien Resurrection.
Yeah.
I love it when it's a real reaction to something. This is why I hate CGI, because you get reactions like that. CGI, they'd fake that shit. And you
yeah.
So, but right. That was my choice for first pick of the 1980s action film night. Guy, over to you.
Okay, here he comes. Here he comes. It's his first appearance tonight. Arnold.
Be back.
I can smell steroids. Ooh, bloody.
He'll be back. He'll definitely be back.
He's always back.
The Governor himself.
Yes. Oh, what can we say about Commando?
Oh, I love Commando.
It's great.
I mean, it's so 80s. At the time, it was just seen as another action film, but you look back at it now and it's so full of all those 80s cliche, like the one-liners, the accidental kills where like they're trying to kill someone else, and the scene that always pops up in my head whenever I think of Commando is the girl in the car with the rocket launcher.
Yeah,
and it goes backwards, and you see it kind of go, like almost double take, like, oh shit. That scene always pops up in my head, and it's just full of cliches, but it's so goddamn brilliant. And let's face it, you know, how much more of an action hero name can you get than John Matrix?
Exactly. Yeah, that is just.
I mean,
ripping with 80s action. That is.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's like that scene where he's kitting up on the boat. I mean, it's
with the one that's gift up to shit now, when people say I'm getting ready, and then they flash that gif up of Arnie stripes and the straps and everything. Yes, I know the scene you mean, but
it becomes a gif. You got it made.
Exactly. I think that's kind of a thing for films now. It's like once you've got your own gif, you're a hit.
Oh God, yeah.
Same with memes. If you get meme, you're in pop culture. You're stuck there.
Yeah.
You ain't going nowhere. You're there for life. Like the Spider-Man ones that are going around at the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Commando, it's just Arnie at his best. One-liners, shooting guns, making war look completely unrealistic, but also entertaining as fuck.
Yes. And we've got tip of the hat to Vernon Wells as Bennett. Great villain.
Bill Duke in there as well.
Yes, indeed. Good old Bill.
And Arnie also co-starred in Predator with him as well.
He did.
So, and I actually watched an interview clip with Bill Duke recently, and he said he's really surprised how many people come up to him, and there's one of two things they will mention him for. The first one is, and he said this is really weird enough because he's not in it very much, is Commando. That's the first one they mention.
Really?
And he says he's quite surprised by that, because although he's in it, he's not like a big part in it. He's not in it as some of the other people that are in it. Whereas in Predator, he takes quite a main. He takes one of the subplots through the film. Yeah. You know, the avenging Jesse Ventura.
Blaine.
So you know, but I just think that's weird that a lot of people go to that rather than Predator. It's like,
yeah, but it's Bill Duke. He's fucking cool as penguin piss.
He is. He's cooler than an ice cube in winter in the South Pole.
I mean, it's like he's in one episode of the remake they did of Battlestar Galactica. Yes, it's not 80s, I know, but
it started in the 80s.
He was in one episode, and he took the scenes up in that, and he was brilliant because he's cool as fuck.
Oh yes, he's an absolute legend at this point. Absolute fucking legend at this point. And yeah, I mean, Commando, it's one of my favorite action films. It's up there with, like, if I had to pick a top 10 action films. It's definitely one of the first ones that comes to mind, especially of Arnie's. I mean, okay, you've got to, when you talk about 80s action, whether it's sci-fi action, horror action, any kind of action, Arnie was probably there. Terminator.
Yeah.
Conan.
Yep.
A couple of my picks for later on down the line, which is Raw Deal and Red Heat.
No, yeah.
Yeah, you know, he literally, like, you needed a big muscle guy in the 80s action. It was either him or Stallone.
Yeah.
You know, that's the be all end and all of it. Okay, towards the end of the 80s, you started getting slightly smaller guys like Van Damme.
Mm.
You know, and I would say we could touch upon the Hong Kong action side of things with the likes of Jackie Chan, but I think that deserves its own episode, Jackie Chan, really.
Yes, I don't want to touch Jackie Chan just yet.
Not yet.
Unless he buys me dinner.
If you touch Jackie Chan too soon, he might karate kick you in the crotch.
Yeah, you can fucking buy me dinner first.
Oh, exactly.
And steak too. I'm not cheap.
Yeah. Gotta have a little num before you get a touch.
Mm-hmm.
That's my general rule on date.
There you go.
Plus, like I always say on my dates, it's always better to eat out.
True. Here we go again.
Moving swiftly on.
Indeed.
Right, seeing as you mentioned Commando, I think we'll take a side step and we will talk. We touched on it. We'll talk about Arnie in Predator.
Yes.
And we're kind of bending the rules slightly here because we said 80s action.
Yes, we did.
And we talked about this before we started recording. We can kind of cover it because the first 45 minutes of the movie,
just the tip.
It's a setup to an action film. It's like, okay, quick segue before we get back to this point. When it comes to horror, me and my friend loved From Dusk Till Dawn, 90s horror, purely because up until they get to the bar, you feel like you're just watching another Quentin Tarantino, Robert Rodriguez, gangstery, outlaws on the run kind of film.
Yeah, I love that part of it.
If you've never seen it, never seen a trailer for it or anything, which I had when I first watched it. When you first watched that film, I just heard it as a recommendation from a friend. It's like, Rent From Dusk Till Dawn, trust me, you'll love it. It's right up your street. And I started watching it. I was like, I know I like the film Desperado, but this isn't really my sort of thing. And then the vampires showed up, and I was like, well, now it's my kind of thing. Now the horror's kicked in. Now I want to watch this. And I very much feel that Predator was kind of a precursor to that in the 1980s, where it starts off as, okay, you see in the very opening shot the ship thing crash landing down onto Earth. But that's all you see. You don't know anything else. You don't see anything come out of a ship. You just see this thing going towards Earth. And then it's a helicopter landing, and there's his team, and there's the iconic scene of him and Carl Weathers.
Oh my God, yeah.
You son of a bitch. See how I got you pushing too many pencils? That's as close as my Arnie's going to get. So don't hate me for that one.
What's his fucking tie?
Yeah, forget the tie, man. But yeah, so up into a certain point in Predator, it is played up very much like just a straight up another action film. You know, and the shootout at the camp.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Or 80s.
As brilliant as that is, I do have one complaint about it because, as we all know, your bitch Callie's a Predator fangirl, so she knows a lot about Predator. The one thing I want to quickly talk about with this is how you should never let your assistant director take over from you. Especially when it's a key pivotal scene like that. And I'll explain why. If you go back and watch the opening, watch this scene in Predator, and you'll see exactly what I mean. You watch from the beginning up to the end of the shootout.
Yeah.
When they're sneaking towards the camp and they're going through the jungle and everything, the director, John McTiernan, who weirdly enough actually did Die Hard as well.
He did.
So there's a nice little connection for you. He had this wonderful way of shooting, and you can see it in Die Hard as well, where as he's following the characters, he's setting up the geography of the scene. Like you can see that where one person's moving, it's laying out what's in front of them, so you get the whole idea of the scene. So when they move around, you know where they are in connection to each other.
Yeah.
Sets the scenes up beautifully. You know what's going on. You know where each actor is meant to be in correspondence to each other. So when they're doing the cutaways to do the dialogue, you know exactly which your brain follows it. in the shootout scene, the assistant director took over. I can't remember the assistant director's name. I'm not going to Google it. I'm just putting it out there. The assistant director. He took over on this bit. And as brilliant as the shootout is, you can see it's very much what is known as static camera shots.
Yeah.
Literally just the camera in one spot, looking at one thing, and it's explosion over here, Arnie shooting a gun here, Jesse Ventura getting old Painless out over here. There's none of this setup of where people are. You don't know the layout of the thing. So it's just jump, 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 cut in between different action scenes. And yeah, okay, it's a fucking good shootout. But it's very badly shot when you look at it. You look at it before and after that, because before and after that, it's, you know, that same style where it's, you get photography set up. So as good as the shootout is, that's my nitpick of it. But I do love it. And to this day, every time I use a melee weapon that you can throw on a video game, the first thing I will say is stick around.
Yeah. Because
that scene where Arnie people say Arnie throws a knife. Have you seen that thing? It's
a fucking machete.
The guy, it's gone through the guy and through that thing's at least this big. He's not throwing a knife, he's throwing a fucking sword.
Yeah.
He was Conan in that shit. He was just like, boom, broadsword through the chest. Fuck you. But yeah, so the beginning bit of Predator guy for the action sequences.
God, yeah. Oh my God, it's just perfect, isn't it? I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the whole film. I'm a big Predator nerd. I love it. But that first part is pure 80s. It's an 80s sandwich.
It does the classic setup of there's a team of soldiers, they've got to go in, they've got to rescue someone, and then shit's going to go south from there.
Exactly.
And then it turns into an intergalactic fist fight with a funny-faced alien thing. Yeah. Yeah. Looks like
Yeah, more of which coming soon.
Yes, we are going to cover Predator in its own episode very, very soon, people. We're just
waiting until a certain thing comes out.
We're letting that one cook a little bit longer before it's ready to be served.
And before me and Kelly of Fangooey squealing on the 5th of August.
Oh, yes, of course, of course. Right, moving quickly on. We've spoken about Arnie.
It's time for Sly.
I think it's time for a little Sly slide.
Yeah.
But yeah, Rambo.
First Blood, perfect. Great film.
I love the way they changed the ending as well, because they were going to have him originally kill himself.
Yeah.
That's the spoiler for a 40-year-old film at this point.
Yeah, spoilers.
He was going to kill himself originally at the end. Well, kind of not. Basically, I think the General Troutman was going to have the gun on him.
Yeah. And
he got distracted, turned away, and Rambo lunges at him and he pulls the trigger.
Yeah.
So, but...
Yeah, but if you do that, you can't do a sequel.
No. And I think they actually changed it, not because they wanted a sequel, just because they felt it was too much of a downer of an ending. They'd rather see him live, but have to pay for what he did to an extent. Like, okay, we get it. He snapped because of PTSD, which I suppose we should talk about this. We're talking about Rambo. It's one thing that the film deals with in, I think, quite a believable way with the PTSD, where they're harassing him in the prison, is the best way to put it. It's a blatant case of police brutality.
Yeah.
But you can see that through the flashbacks he's having. It's from his time in Vietnam.
He's associating that with.
Yeah, and you've got to remember that at the time Rambo came out, PTSD wasn't really a recognized thing. It wasn't a known thing. And it's only now that we look back at Rambo and you see it as the story of a mentally scarred, broken soldier. You know, some of the rants he goes on in it. And I hate to admit this because it makes me laugh when I see it, but it's purely because of how real his performance comes across. It's the bit when he's talking about his friend who that we're going to go driving with.
Oh, yeah.
And he turns around and you can see he's trying not to cry. And he says, "How are we going to go driving, man? You've got no legs." And it's the way he says it. It makes me laugh, but it's laughing out of shock.
Yeah.
Because it's like,
shit.
Could you imagine having to say that to someone?
Mm.
And I think the film puts that across very, very well, because it's just a person saying it like it's something they've seen. It's something they've had to enjoy. You couldn't understand it, but they're just saying it like my friend was there with no fucking legs, man. It's like, yeah. So it casts a light on PTSD. It's a fucking brilliant film. It's again the one-man army cliche.
Yeah.
But with Rambo, I think it's done in a very, very believable way, especially when his commanding officer Troutman shows up and he rattles off all the stuff that Rambo's had to endure, and you are just like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
This guy is not to be messed with, and this policeman just had to throw his weight around. Brian Dennehy.
Yeah.
Which means
actually, it wasn't Brian Dennehy, was it? It was the other one that was brutalizing him.
Well, yeah, but Dennehy was the one who didn't back down, who didn't take it seriously.
Yeah. But that was a great performance by Dennehy.
Oh, God, yes. The back and forth between the two of them, it worked. It worked. You believed that there was genuine animosity between the two characters.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a case of I don't like you and you don't like me. It's I'm the sheriff of this town. You cross me, I'll fucking kill you. Kind of, there was that level of hostility between the two. But
for me, I mean, the shootouts at the end were great, and he's destroying the town. That was cool. But for me, the better scenes were when he's out and they're hunting him in the forest, and he just takes them off one by one.
Oh God, yeah. The bit that got me.
What a sequence!
The bit that always gets me in that scene is where one of the guys thinks he's got him. And he comes out from it's either behind him or by the side of him.
Yeah.
He gets the knife to his throat and he's just there like, where did you fucking come from?
Yeah.
Yeah, that. And okay, that's been parodied a lot in video games that deal with stealth action. Metal Gear Solid is one of the most famous ones for that. But I think that just shows that how little things like that cross over into the pop culture.
Of course they do.
I don't want to say the pop culture universe, but it sort of crosses over into the
pop culture lexicon.
Yeah, it's the 60 degrees of separation kind of thing. It's very much like, you remember that one scene in Rambo? Well, Solid Snake's just about to recreate it.
Yeah,
it's that kind of wink, wink, nudge, nudge, tip of the hat thing. So, and that's what I think where the term Easter egg comes from. It's films and shit like that from the 1960s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Even now the 2000s, we're starting to get Easter eggs of referencing things in the 2000s.
Yeah.
We're getting that far into it. But yeah, I think just little things like that are the birth of the Easter egg. Just little scenes like that stand out.
Because it's people going, this is shit I love.
Yeah, exactly. That's why we do this show. It's me and you sat here bullshitting for an hour about the things we love, whether it's Transformers, Power Rangers, action films, horror films, you name it. We will sit and waffle about it for a good hour.
Yeah. I'm thinking of doing an episode on the films that Tony Harris hasn't seen. But
Exactly. Which that could be either a very long episode or a very short episode.
Oh, it would be a very long episode. Maybe 2 hours, Tone.
We love you, Tony. No shade thrown, but I am a shady bitch. We love you, Tony. All the best with the new episode that's coming out when we're filming.
But anyway, that
was our toast to Tony. We both did it at the same time. Anyway, moving quickly on to the next one. I picked Rambo, so it's your turn.
Well, I kind of picked it as well, but
all right then.
We could say Rambo 2.
Good. I like the second one. It's
like a line of Coke.
Followed by a shot of tequila. The first one's the line of Coke. The first one's the line of Coke. The second one's the shot of tequila.
Yeah.
First one brings you up. The second one just tips you just over the edge.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do like the second one.
It's not as good as the first one.
I was going to say, I've not seen it as much as the first one because as good as it is, I don't enjoy it as much as the first one. But because it kind of picks up not long after the first one, within like,
Yeah.
you know, I tend to, like we were saying about Back to the Future during the 80s sci-fi one. It's very much watch that as one film.
Mm.
Same with the first two Rambos. I like to watch them back to back. Whereas the third one, I can kind of take it or leave it.
Yeah.
In all honesty, and I've not seen the other ones, like the one that's just called Rambo and the one last.
They're worth a look.
Hmm?
They're worth a look.
I've heard they're worth a look, but I've not got around to watching them yet.
The latest one, especially.
Yeah, I've heard Last Blood is really good.
Oh, it's fantastic.
But yeah,
fantastic.
So I think then I think we're nice doing little segues here, going along a nice little path. Talking about Rambo, talking about PTSD, and talking about the Vietnam War, I think that leads us on to what was essentially a very big chunk of 1980s action films, which is the Vietnam War films. Even through the 90s, there was a lot of Vietnam War films. Forrest Gump, brilliant film. I love that film to pieces. Tom Hanks.
Oh God, yeah, I could watch that
film. And yeah, even that covers Vietnam War, so it had a very long-lasting impact. A lot of people said that James Cameron's influences and his feelings about the Vietnam War are present in Aliens. So it has a lot of bleed through.
Yeah.
But one of my main talking points for 80s Vietnam War films, one of my favorite, just because it doesn't glamorize and glorify war. It shows it almost in a very realistic light. Okay, it's Hollywood and it's blown up for the sake of Hollywood, but it still tries to tell a real story. That's Platoon.
Yeah.
One of my all-time favorite films, Willem Dafoe, a very young Charlie Sheen.
Yes.
You know,
he was young.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Very young at the time. You know, it's just absolutely amazing.
Well, yeah.
You know, it tells a real story about war. It shows you that sometimes the worst enemy on the battlefield is the people you're serving with. It's not the enemy.
Yeah.
You know, if you have a personality clash within a stressful situation like that, I mean, look at what happened to Defoe's character in that film. That the scene where he's running through the field, the thing that is the picture that is now literally the poster for the film of him on his knees.
Yeah.
You know, it's iconic. And it's one of my favorites. And the music.
Oh.
Adagio for strings. Oh, every time I hear that film, I actually, hear that song, I actually do get a bit weepy because it just reminds me of the scene from the film. Yeah. And it's a heartbreaking scene to watch. It's a hard watch.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, God, yeah, it's not easy.
No, it's not an easy film to watch. I will say that it's definitely not an easy film to watch. I mean, if you have relatives or have served yourself in the armed forces, watching a film like that, it does not glorify war. Okay, there's other films like kind of my next pick within the films is Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah, that kind of, bookends.
Yeah, it's you've got the realism and then you've got the just out and out like. But quick segue, Full Metal Jacket. You can talk about Platoon in just a second. Ali Ermey. We lost him this year. And just him in Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah.
But yeah, Platoon and Full Metal Jacket, guy, off you go.
I don't think there's much more that can be said. I think you just hit the nail on the head perfectly. Diva that you are. Nice one.
I cannot help it. There's an encyclopedic knowledge of films up here.
Oh, there we go. Not that you've blown your own horn or anything there.
Right, I'll go into a quick little backstory here of why I know so much about films and why I've watched so many films, because I don't talk about myself much on these episodes. Don't talk about myself much on my channel in general. That's more me just pissing and moaning and complaining about shit on my social media. But the main reason why I watched a lot of films as a kid was being asthmatic as a child meant that going out and running around in the field and playing football with your friends could possibly cost you your life.
Yeah.
You know, that's how bad my asthma was as a child. There was one summer, right before the summer holidays, that I took nearly 6 weeks off due to an asthma attack. I was laid up in bed. I had a nebulizer on every night when I went to sleep. It was awful. So when you sat at home, your friends are all at school. You've got 8 hours a day to do jack shit. And kids' TV at the time consisted of, mostly during the day, just baby programs.
Yeah.
You know, when I'm 8, 9, 10 years old, and the stuff that's being shown on, like, I think at the time was the Children's Channel on Sky, is all aimed at like preschoolers.
Yeah.
I just started working my way through the family video collection. So, you know, I was sat at home watching things like Terminator, The Fly, Aliens, Batman, Superman, RoboCop. You know, I was watching all these classic films from like the 60s, 70s, 80s. I watched the entirety of the Planet of the Apes franchise.
Oh.
The original ones with Roddy McDowall and Charlton Heston and all that.
The best ones.
I absolutely love those films. Because
They're the best ones.
Again, what we were talking about in a previous episode about practical effects and things like that. The Planet of the Apes, for its time, was not only the biggest budgeted movie ever goddamn made, but it was also the one that had the biggest budget spent on special effects for its time.
And
so
it's
an absolutely amazing film. So yeah, that's why I have a whole encyclopedic knowledge of films, because whenever I had asthma attacks or chest infections or anything like that, whenever I had time off school, my mum would take me to the video shop. They had a deal, 5 for a $5. Get 5 films, watch one a day for the month, watch it one a day for the week, or for however long I was off school. So I went through like several video shops worth of videos of illnesses and stuff I had as a child. So I suppose me being asthmatic is finally actually paying off. It's finally given me the ability to actually fucking do something and share my love of films with the world, because that's all I did. I sat around and watched films because I couldn't do anything else.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to the main topic. I think that's pretty much all the ones I can think of and all the ones I've had listed. We talked about most of them because, as we said, there's a lot of overlap.
It was a huge part of the 80s with several films. Can you guess?
Huge part of the 80s with 7 films.
Several.
I thought you said 7.
No. You give up?
It's not the Missing in Action films, is it, by any chance?
No.
Go on then.
Bond. James Bond.
Bond did have, well, I think Bond deserves his own episode.
He does.
Much like when we talked about a certain Time Lord in a previous episode, I think characters like Bond, although yes, they did have some good films out in the 80s. You know, there are some good ones up there. I think Bond definitely deserves his own episode.
Yeah.
I think we should set a rule, actually, and we'll say this live so everybody knows it. I think if a franchise is 40 years or older, it gets its own episode.
I'll go with that.
So that just means that the longer we're doing this, the more things we're going to have to do their own episodes on.
God damn, it's a good job it's not a music podcast. We'd have like 5 episodes on the Stones.
Well, yeah, one for each decade.
Yeah. But, Roadhouse.
Yes, Patrick Swayze.
In his big action-y debut.
Yes, one of my friends introduced me to that, weirdly enough, because
great film.
It's someone you know. I'll talk to you about this when we're not online. But
okay.
This person introduced me to Roadhouse because they were a big Patrick Swayze fan. I didn't know this because one of our girlfriends at the time, where I'm going back to like college.
Yeah.
Like I was maybe 16 at this point. One of her girlfriends was at college doing performing arts and they were doing Dirty Dancing. So she had the soundtrack on repeat for like a whole summer. And my friend was like, oh, yeah, I really love Dirty Dancing. It's kind of one of my favorite films. Patrick Swayze, and that's a brilliant actor. And I'm like, I didn't think you'd be a Swayze fan. Oh, yeah. mainly because I watched Roadhouse. I was like, I've not heard of this Roadhouse. And of course, they had it on DVD, VHS, all they had it on every format you could have it on. I'm like, yeah, here, borrow this copy, watch it. And yeah, I fucking loved it.
What can you say? Great action, great fights, great soundtrack. Oh.
And the ever lovable Sam Elliott at his mumbly.
Oh, Sam Elliott.
Sam Elliott. You can never tell whether he's happy, sad, or just generally complaining to himself about something when he's doing his dialogue.
Mm.
It's always.
Quick sidebar. Like Sam Elliott, go onto Netflix and search for a thing called The Ranch. He's in that with Aston Kutcher. It's great. Brilliant series.
I liked him in Tombstone.
Mm.
Oh God, can't remember his name.
I also adored him in my favourite film ever, The Big Lebowski.
Oh yes.
Which again deserves its own episode.
And I hope if Marvel are out there paying attention, they're probably not. They wouldn't watch us. We're too lowbrow. We're too off their radar.
We swear and stuff.
Yeah, we
swear and drink
and all that. We swear, we drink, we actually enjoy life.
Mm-hmm.
But no, if Marvel and Disney are out there, and I'm putting this out there in the ether, I liked Sam Elliott as the Ghost Rider in the Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider film. The fact that he appeared as the Old West one, I think even now that's a perfect casting choice.
Yeah.
So
any grizzled old bugger is a perfect casting choice for Sam Elliott. That's
true. Oh, one's just popped to my head, and again, bending the rules ever so slightly here.
Okay.
Escape from New York.
Yes, of course, Rowdy Roddy.
Mm-hmm. No, that's They Live.
Oh, of course it is.
Escape from New York is
Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell. Yes.
Kurt Russell. I do get those two mixed up for some reason.
Call me Snake. That line that's always in the film. Snake Plissken, I heard you was dead. And then
Kurt Russell, Twofer, Big Trouble in Little China.
Fuck yes, but again, bending the rules with that one because it's very, very sci-fi. Well, I say sci-fi, it's more
sci-fi.
It's more fantasy then. It's about an ancient Japanese ghost.
Yeah. Can you deny there's action in it?
I cannot deny its action, but it's definitely more, again, like we said earlier, with 80s stuff, there's a lot of overlap.
There is. But
it's also this.
Like that coke that was going on in the movie industry. That's
it's like, we'll make it an action film, but we want a weird little bizarre man in a wheelchair who looks about 4,000 years old. Which, the actor who played that part, wow.
Yeah.
Playing that part under all that makeup, I salute you.
Yes. Oh.
Perform under that much makeup and still make it a believable performance is brilliant in my opinion. Rocky, yes, that is action, kind of.
I mean, okay, the best two were made in the 70s, the first two. Yes. But, of course, 3 and 4, and, 5. The less said about 5, the better, but 3 and 4 were huge 80s.
Well, yes, they were. I'm not a huge fan of the Rockies. I've seen them. I'm not a huge fan because boxing's not my thing, unfortunately.
I don't know, but it's not so much the boxing that's the thing.
I know it's the story. I know it's the story behind it. But when the main focus of a film is it's a sport that I don't normally watch, like slight segue, the comedy film Bend It Like Beckham.
Never seen it.
Right, I'd never seen it until I was with my ex-partner, and she was like, "Oh yeah, it's really funny. You watch it," but I just couldn't find myself enjoying it because when it wasn't the character stuff, it was them playing football and talking about football and doing football stuff. Yeah. I don't like football. I'm not a football player. I don't watch football. So all these references to people from football, over my fucking head. So
I never bothered.
Exactly. So, like, me with boxing, it's like as much as I love the Rocky films for the character stuff, when it comes to the actual fights in the ring, I zone out. I lose interest. It's not. It doesn't entertain me. Same as wrestling. As a child, I was entertained with wrestling, but now, not so much.
Sucks these days.
Well, the biggest franchise out there sucks. We're not going to name names, but
No. Yeah. Oh, right. So
anyway,
let's get on to some quick hits. Bit of TV. We can't go without the 80s and not mention Knight Rider.
Of course.
18. Airwolf. Yeah, baby.
Sorry, as soon as you said 18, my brain just flashed back to the scene where they were shooting cabbages out of a just I don't know what happened with that episode, but I think they were running out of ideas by that point.
I think they're probably running out of fucking money, you know.
Well, yeah, it's quite possibly. Can you imagine like the day of the shooting on the props?
Yeah.
Like, so what we got?
Bullets.
Going to the prop department, right? We're running out of money for this budget for this episode. So what can we end on? It's like, well, we've got this tank, and we've got compressed air, and we've got a whole pallet full of cabbages from the catering department that got delivered here by accident. Should we just launch them?
Yeah,
why not?
Yeah,
I mean, that's one way to toss your salad. I'll say that.
Yeah, I'll tell you that.
His high speed of tossing up the salad.
Yeah, they did speed the footage.
Which everybody knows, when you're tossing your salad, you got to take your time. You got to wait till it's ready.
Yep, you got to get the dressing right now.
Too much creamy stuff is never a good thing.
Vinegar.
Anyway, right. But yeah, 80s TV, there was a lot out there.
There was a drenching of action, wasn't there? Let's face it.
Miami Vice.
Oh, Neon Finery by Michael Mann. Brilliant stuff.
Magnum PI. There's another one. There's quite a lot of 80s action. So if you went to film goer, you had the TV to rely on.
Exactly. But that was the best.
Yeah, I think we've been going for 40 minutes now. So about that, yeah. So I think what we should do is we should wrap up here, because we usually get to around the 45-minute an hour mark. We've kind of hit the stone wall now with not being able to do many crossover and overlap, because as we've said many times in this episode, you talk 80s action and inevitably there's overlap.
There is.
It was the decade of sci-fi. It really was. I mean, we came out of it all started 1979. You had the likes of Star Wars and Alien and all that kind of stuff hitting. So sci-fi was, throughout the 1980s, was just exploding.
Yeah, I think sci-fi is the winner.
Yeah, it definitely was. I'd say sci-fi and not so much horror, but slasher films, because there's a difference.
Yeah.
Slasher is like Freddy, Jason, Michael, Chucky, those kind of, to me, horror is more like haunted house type shit.
Yeah.
One of my favorite horror films, I call it a horror film, is Woman in Black with Daniel Radcliffe. That's one of the only modern-ish horror films in recent years that's actually made me jump. That actually made me like, what the fuck is going on here, kind of shit. But I'd say the clear winner, like you said, it's sci-fi. Yeah. We've covered it all. We've done a quadrilogy trilogy.
Yeah, we've done a 4-part trilogy, folks.
Yeah, this is the 4th part in our 80s trilogy. If you know what we mean by that, good to you.
Yeah. If you know, you know.
You win a point for that one. But yeah, so yeah, we can't really talk too much about 80s action because it bled in, everything bled into each other back then. 80s action, 80s sci-fi, 80s horror. It all had that little element of everything was trying to be everything all at once, and some pulled it off better than others.
Yes.
We've got such legendary film franchises to look back on now, despite where they're currently sitting with quality and direction, and in some cases, even having a fucking release.
Oh, no.
We have the likes of Alien, Predator, Terminator, RoboCop. We have these science fiction franchises that are still with us now, that are referenced in everything from video games to music videos to you name it, it's referenced. 80s sci-fi, action, horror, you name it, anything 80s is referenced in a big way. And maybe that's just a sign of the times, because we're all nostalgic for when things were simpler, things were easier.
Exactly.
They weren't more accepting, I will say that.
No.
With us recording now during Pride Month, and I'm going to get on my soapbox a little bit here. The 80s may not have been a more accepting time in terms of society. The LGBTQ scene back then was in its infancy. People still got a lot of hate.
Yeah.
Still get a lot of hate now. I, myself being transgender, I get hate on a daily basis, but I don't let it get me down, because I got people like Guy watching my back.
Yeah, baby.
So I think if the 80s can teach us anything, it's that some things live forever and some things should stay in the fucking past.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
So do you want to wrap it up, Guy, considering you're the host for today?
Yeah, well, that'll about do it for us there, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a lovely ride through the 80s on this odyssey of all those things that we all got excited about as children.
Exactly.
Had a little.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah, we had little squeals and laughs and cries, but god damn, it was a fun old time.
Oh, it was. It was. And I mean, it gave me one of my two of my all-time favorite franchises, Transformers and the Predator.
Exactly. Put them away.
Not what you were saying last night.
Hey, shh.
Anyway.
Yes, so this is the end of Hunya Geek Stream for this week. I've been JB.
And I've
She's been Callie.
And
we will see you next time, the same time as that. Thank you, everybody.
And just to quickly finish it up, next week is a surprise episode. Bye for now, everyone.
All right, take it easy, all. Bye-bye.
No, I'm Chaos and he's Mayhem. We're a double act.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.